say the same. My great granny, she tried to cross the ice, she fell in.
What happened?
She drowned in the canal. Not here.
Oh, in
Roxburgh.
Roxburgh.
It was November. So she either tried to cross the ice or she jumped. I think she jumped. Because her husband had died and she was left with 6 girls.
And where was she going?
Well, in Broxburn where the canal is, that's Hallygate, or Holygate, is there. Just before the chapel, the chapel's there. Just before where the road crosses now, that's Hallygate, and that's where my granny and granda lived. And she lived in Uphall, over here.
Does she come out of the chapel?
No, she went to their house. She came out of my granny and granda's house, Granda Craney's house.
To walk home?
Maybe aye, maybe no.
And would it have been quite a shortcut if she'd crossed the ice?
It's a canal.
It wouldn't be that far away, you know.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's not worth the risk.
Yeah, but also, it's not just, you can't just walk across it. You need to, it'd be the same as you imagine the canal down there. You need to sit in the wall and get down and climb back up. And she was, what age?
And right, maybe she was 55, 56. Maybe.
Oh, so it's not a very likely thing for a...
Well, she was your... What?
My great-grand.
My
Okay.
great-great-grandmother.
Right.
She was from County Leitrim. And County Leitrim is the highest proportion of suicides. Do you know that?
No.
So, her husband had died recently before that?
My great-grandfather had died. He worked for Paraffin Young. You know who Paraffin Young was?
James Young.
James Young. And he had a huge...
What do they call him, paraffin?
Because he distilled...
Was
he was the...
He
invented,
distilled
didn't he?
paraffin from the
He was the
origin.
guy that produced the commercial side of paraffin. It was known about, but he developed it and had a huge big thing with it up all, huge big works.
That's where all the bings, the orange bings at the side of the motorway.
All the orange things, and what they done was the mining going on. So they were mining the shale. The shale was coming up, getting processed, going to the works, and Paraffin Young was distilling this paraffin now. Robert McMullen, my great-grandfather, he was what they call a retort man. And I've looked into this retort sort of thing. The basis of it is that they were people who were taking the stuff from the distilling process and getting in there and getting all this out and taking it to another. They were called retort men. Whatever, they were part of the procession sort of thing. But whatever it was, they were hand-drawn carts and all this. Now he died of sclerosis of the liver. But when you read the thing about Paraffin Young and about the workers, it was there was a lot of deaths due to liver disease, because it was down to this breathing in all these fumes. They had there were no, I wear a mask or, safety was nothing. I mean, you've got to remember in my time, with the biggest accident in the pits, one of the biggest accidents in the pits, just 5 miles from here. And if those guys that died in that disaster would have had a personal respirator, which came into being 6 months after they all died because of what had happened, if they'd have had that, they'd have all lived. Every one of them. They didn't have it, so the gas.
So what happened? They did.
They suffocate.
Well, they're in the pit, so you've got in the pit you've got air coming in. Air comes in here. That's a downdraft. Comes through, and it vents out. You know, rather and through the sections, but it gives clean air. But you've got baffles every so often, like, you know. So if something happened up here, they would come beyond the bar, close those doors. They would still have the fresh air. That fresh air is coming in. You've got pumps that are pumping these things. Now, what happened there was that the pump went on fire, right? But it went on fire on this side, here. These guys, the night shift had come out. They were out and up the pit. Our John, my brother John, Mary and Kathleen, their dad, he was out and up the pit. And these guys are coming down, they're coming down. They come down the pit, and what they do is, there was big sections in that pit. So they got onto this bogey. So there's maybe 5 guys abreast on the bogey. So that's travelling in. And as that's travelling in, this pump had went on fire here. And they're going in. Right? So the sections that end up in there where they're going. But that's on fire there, so that noxious fumes is coming in, and they just taken over the whole thing. There was 47 of them, right, and 45 were found in the bogey. 2 were found about 100 yards away, lying in water. They had tried to get away. But that pump was on fire, and they knew that pump was on. They knew there were in danger there. This is the bad bit about it. They knew there was something wrong with the pump. They all came out at the inquiry, and it was too late. You had 47 guys die.
Where was the? Did you say it was
Auchengeith.
just 5?
Middlesbrough.
Okay.
Auchengeith pit. We had 3 guys from round here, none for Croy. Well, one for Croy, but he didn't live here. He was born in Croy, but he lived in Middlesbrough. Fred Broadley. Mark Griffin's great uncle. Fred was our trainer in the Boys Guild in the football. May Cree. May's man, Donald Weir. May's still living yet, you know.
Who was there for a while?
She's bedridden.
Oh, sure.
And who's the other one? Pat Harvey. Ian Harvey's son.
Wait, what year was this?
1959. Well, 58, September 58. I'm 58, September 58, and I left the pits in 59.
Well, because of the.
Yeah. I got out.
And he said they got all this equipment because.
And then because of the inquiry, because there were other pits that had these, what they call Minuteman respirators, you know, they lasted something like, half an hour to maybe 3/4 an hour, which would have given them the chance to take the thing, put it on, and find their way back and get out, you know, where they had no chance. They were just slowly suffocated, you know. And then these respirators, personal respirators, were then brought in, and the actual inquiry is some bit of reading, you know. It's horrendous, you know. But the accidents that happened around here, number three in 25, there were 7 guys killed, a father and a son. Guy from Croy Hill, Patrick, one of the Croy Patrick. And there were 7 of them killed in that. It was a Saturday morning where there wasn't a lot of working, but they were building manholes. And there was a fall. And when they went to go and try and rescue the guys from the fall, there were another fall. And there were 7 of them killed. I don't know if you've ever seen that photograph of the cortege coming through the 4 arches with Father Charleston. You know, he's leading the cortege. That was the guy Patrick. Then you had the Brett disaster in 1938, where you had 4 out of 1 family. John Dillon, you know John plays bowls with me just along the street. His late wife Mary Martin, her grandfather and 3 uncles, all killed in 1938. And there's a photograph of the coffins coming up the Howe Road, and Joanne's daddy's carrying one of the coffins. 7. There were 7 coffins in that. There were 7 Catholics and 2 Protestants. And it's only, 5 years ago that they done that memorial. And everybody was involved, both Catholics and Protestants, because one of the guys was in the Salvation Army band. The Croy band played that day, along with the Salvation Army band at his gravesite.
So were there a lot of guys trying to get out when you would?
Oh aye. Well, Cumbernauld was just taking off at that time, so you'd all the factories opening up. You know, you had boroughs and everybody.
So what year was Cumbernauld built?
Cumbernauld would start away around 1956 when the first sods went down.
Ravenhill was the first, was it no?
No. Culdrum.
Culdrum
was the first, and that'd be about 56, 57. And then it just spread from there,
And the industry was being kind of...
Factories were opening
Village.
up.
Yeah.
Was the village not the first?
No, the village was there
The
for
village was
a
always
year.
there.
They'll be there long before. It's when your great granddad was there. They came from Ireland. That's where they went. Because he drew it as well. In the bungalow, Cumbernauld house. He took a stroke, fell in the bum. Tommy Reynolds. No, Drum was the first, because you've got the film, Gregor's Girl, right?
I saw that when I was 6.
And you've got Hazel, who is one of the girls in the bikes. She always said, I'm famous, I'm on a bike.
Actually, we should watch that now, because I saw it when I was 6, and it might be inappropriate bits, but...
Well, Anne's babysitter is in the film, but only briefly, just get across the background. I haven't seen her for ages.
Yeah, I saw it in the cinema in Eastbourne.
I started up there in 1962.
Was that when you first...
No, I started in 62. I left the pit and I started with Robert Beath in Mosswater doing the sawmill thing.
Right.
So it was 62, 63. I done like a 3-year apprenticeship as a sawyer, and then I went to Cumbernauld Development. I just went to Cumbernauld Development, and it was the worst bloody winter I've ever had for mine on. Everything was frozen, power was off, really hard frost, horrendous. And there we were supposed to be in the garden, but we were out salting roads, and then we were put on short time. So to go and see the brew, you know, for maybe 3 days a week, then go back and do a bit of work.
Right, well, because the economy is slowing down a little.
Too cold. Everyone was,
Oh, right.
everyone was frozen. Everyone was frozen solid, you know. And
So how did you get into the long distance drive? Oh, you know, you're driving.
driving. Well, that would be quite 19. When did I 6 years, so 21, so it'd be what? So 15, 6 year,
G and T, I think.
6 years from what? 43. Around about 19. What would that be? 50, it was 15, so 1964, 65. I took my HGV. No, I didn't. I went driving with Robert Beath. He didn't need. You just need to be 21. And it was 6-wheelers he had. I went back to drive with him, and it was driving from here with stuff out of the brickworks like bricks or these barrels with this special clay in it, and it was going to Southampton. That was my first run from here to Southampton docks. Power station top end of Southampton docks, and then you left Southampton docks and you went over to Devon, drove right along the south coast to Chirlinighton, where they come in the moor. Uncle Tom Cobley and all, and picked up China clay from Cornwall, Devon, and brought that back here to the brickworks for to mix in with it, and also brought back Scrumpy. Robert had a deal with a guy to provide him with gallon flagons of Scrumpy, which was in the middle of the load. Right. So you imagine
It took some coordinating getting.
well, I was a smuggler because there was no
duty.
duty on it, you know. So
What? Oh. Well, what I mean, there was
It was illegal.
it was illegal.
Scrumpy.
Yeah, at that point, right?
Oh,
What's the same as anything else?
I thought-
Same
so-
as the poutine we're talking about. Some guys like brewing it.
all right. So what I thought Scrumpy, because I'm getting mixed up with maybe the brand name Scrumpy.
No,
Scrumpy
No.
Jack.
no.
It's a
No.
cider.
I used to go to this farm. I went to this place and it was like a pigsty, you know, and they had these big vats, and there were everything in it, you know, and it was green. That was the colour of it. It was colour like that. And I'll give you an example. I stayed in the transport cafe, and there were about 10 of us staying in the transport cafe, and this guy says, "There's a dance on up in the village tonight," right? So we all set sail to go to this dance, and one of the guys that was with, he produced a bottle, a flagon of this Scrumpy that I'm picking up. I'd already, I had it on the lorry. What happens is I packed the lorry out like that with the bags were like that, so there were a well in the middle, and all this Scrumpy, maybe about say 30, 40 bottles, 40 gallons of this Scrumpy.
So what strength is it? It's like,
It was strong. Well, it was potent.
but it's a spirit rather than a cider.
Well,
No, it'll be
yeah.
like 14%.
put it this way.
Oh, right, okay.
Put it this way. When you hear what happened to you, this is right. So I had all this on the lorry, and everyone was always frustrated. These guys didn't know I had it on the lorry. No. So anyway, I've got this on the lorry. I'm coming away in the morning to drive back up, and we obviously went to this village hall, and we turned up there, and on the way this guy produced this flagon of cider, so we all in a wee could all drink it, This other guy, who was from Inverness, he produced a half bottle of whiskey. Right? So we get into it. I woke up in my ditch. I woke up in my ditch.
It's like 'cause they don't mix.
And I hadn't a clue where I was, I was totally lost. And the farmer came down the road and saw me and he says, "What are you doing?" I says, "Oh," he says, "you're going down there." He says, "There's the transport cafe down there." So I'm down at the transport cafe. And I'm dry, I was totally dry. And I took a drink of water.
Is it like...
And I was as bad as ever. And I lost a day.
This happens to Uzos like that.
I lost a day. I couldn't. No way. I was ill. I couldn't have drove anywhere. And then I had to leave there. And there's no motorways. I mean, the M6 was only half built.
This is your first trip as well.
Yeah, the M6 was only. When I went down the M6 at first, I had to go down. I had to come off at Lancaster. Well, I had to go down and go down through Kendal. And when you got to Kendal, when you get to Kendal, you come to the bridge, over the river. I don't know if it's still there yet. You can maybe if you ever. No, but the bridge, you go down there and have a look. And at the side of the bridge was these big stones, right?
They're still there.
And what happened was you had to drive, because of the length of the lorry I had, it was a rigid lorry, right? So it's a long lorry with double wheels at the back, right? So you had to drive over towards the stones and drive up onto the stones so that the stones bounced you round to line you up onto the bridge. Now it's happened then the M6 was still getting built. So you go down Sharp to the Jungle Cafe at the bottom and then head out through Kendal and then come back through Lancaster, to get back onto what was the main road. And then down, but when you get further down, there was no motorway to South Wales or anything like that, and so I had to leave like Devon and come up through Weston-super-Mare, Gloucester. And that's how you done it. No sat nav. What you done was you got a map the night before it and you marked out where you were heading for by the road signs. And you pinned that up in your cabin there. So you got the signs and you went, right, okay, that's where I'm going. That's your, and I do that yet. If I can do that, I can a sat nav thing, which I'll not do again because it cost me over in Ireland last year. All my data, right?
Oh, aye. Your phone.
So you do it as, like place names.
Yeah, but even if you have got a sat nav, you should still do that before you go anywhere.
Well,
So that you
it's a
know
thing
where
I've done
it's-
anyway, I've always done it, it's that was the things you had to do, and you had no Spaghetti Junction at that point.
Yeah, so it took forever to get...
To get through Birmingham, you either had to rely on that you knew a way around about.
So you couldn't have done... when we went to get Isaac, I drove back non-stop.
Mm-hmm.
You took your nest.
Southend. 6 hours from Southend back home.
It's like people...
Couldn't do that in those days.
I remember doing, when I was a Rubery and we done, they were, at that point in time, they were doing a bit of trunk drive, what they call night trunk. So, I would leave Cumbernauld and drive to Darlington, which is Birmingham. And at that point in time, we were getting something like 5-6 hours to do it,
Hmm?
Is that him?
It's
That's
nowhere.
the clock. You got a set time for to do the night run,
Yeah.
and then the following night you were in bed all day. Like your rest time was the next day, and then the next day you got your time for running back up.
So it was always... The truck was always on the move then?
Yeah. Because we were delivering like steel,
Yeah.
for Cumbernauld here. So I was going down, an English driver was driving up, Then he was coming back down and I was coming up.
Alright.
I never ever knew the guy. But he jumped out the car and I was jumping in. You know.
Why did he refuel?
Oh, it was all refuel for you, you know, but come in the yard. Everything was done for you, you know, like fuel was checked, tyres were checked.
Right, so you could go a long way on a tank.
Oh aye. You can do the 300 mile, like, you know. And it was 6 hours 20 minutes was the running time.
To Birmingham.
Yeah.
You here in Birmingham?
And the night
At night?
drunk.
No traffic. And
Wasn't it a
what
lot?
was the road? Because was that before the motorway?
No, the motorway built
The M74 and
well,
76
the motorway was built around about, what were we talking about, 65, 66 when the motorway was built. When I was doing night trunk it was in the 70s, you know, early 70s.
Oh, yeah. That's a great motorway.
Aye.
Driving down that.
And it was good, yeah, it was good. There were good lorries, like, you know, it was all big ERFs, you know, they were cracking machines. I used to bring the unit home and we used to, she was in the carry cot, we used to load her into the inside of the cabin. She'd be lying in the carry cot on top of the engine. But I wasn't distance that time, I was always just. But we had things like Liverpool, going to Liverpool. And Liverpool docks were actually starting to shut down at that time. But I used to go to this, Joanne, look.
He was waving.
Used to go to what they called the Middle West Harrington. And I went down there one time. And I went down with a wee flat vehicle, just a wee 4-wheel flat lorry. And the buses were on strike. Right? And I'm going along the Liverpool dockside. And I looked in the mirror and there were hundreds of them hanging out the back of the motor, up in the back of it, you know. Oh. And the police in Liverpool they always had big long batons. No, the normal police had small batons, you know, with that. Liverpool policemen had batons, but that way.
Like baseball bats.
Yeah, they were pretty ruthless in the way they delivered it, like, you know. And guys had to be, am I all right? I'm all right on here. And I said, aye, you're fine, like, you know. I wasn't going to argue with anything. You know?
How long did you do that? How long did you do the driving for?
Oh, well, I must have done distance about 8 years. Then I was in the factory. Drove all the kind of plant in there, like forklifts, side loaders, overhead cranes.
And you stopped. Oh well.
Just
when was that? Just
when
after
Anne was
Anne
born. When Anne was born, that's
that was your reason for.
that's when I
stopping.
left. That's when I
Yeah.
left to go to the gun range. You know.
Connor. Come here, darling.
And Bernard said to me, "Look, I've got a better job for you. You know."
Bernard.
Yeah, my cousin.
Oh.
He was the fire officer.
There's a gun range yet. Where is it? It's on the A66. Where there's like barracks and a kind of tanks. Catterick, yeah.
Well, you had at Cartwright.
No, not Catterick. No, not.
Spade Adam.
It's kind of halfway.
Spade Adam was a
A66.
before you come to Cartwright. Before you come to Cartwright, up on the left hand side, up in the hills up there, you had a Spade Adam.
That's right. Okay.
And Spade Adam was where they tested the rocket motors for Blue Streak.
What's that?
Blue Streak was the missile that the British government done away with, which would have put the first Britain into space. You don't know that? Google Blue Streak. Blue Streak.
What, it would have been the first.
It was the first rocket that Britain was developing that was potentially putting somebody into space.
Right.
And that's when the rocket motor was built. Well, it was tested at Spade Adam, and then everything just fell to bits. So you had Spade Adam, and then you had on the Cumbrian side you had S Wheels, which is still going today. You had Kirkcudbright. You had obviously Longtown. Longtown was the big ammunition depot. And Annan, which was also for all the stuff came into Annan, you know, and was dispensed. Minute train was dispensed at Longtown, stored at Longtown. You had, I think what else was down there.
Are you in the toilet?
You had West Through, which was aircraft.
Pardon? Right.
And then you started to come up, you had various bases all the way up, like, you know. And then you come up here, you had Insterf, going through to Edinburgh then, and you had Campbelltown, Fasley, and, you know, all this.
And at what point were you the dog? Dog trainer? Or
Well,
that was part of it.
Anne was only about a year.
Can I have an Easter egg?
You can have it. You
Easter eggs.
can have.
That's
What, you mean like a whole one, like one of those? Or do you mean like, is your sickness gone off?
What were those, one of those wee ones that you got?
Yeah, well, I'm not comfortable with you in there because we saw how difficult it
There
is.
are mini eggs inside here.
But-
Can I have the mini eggs?
There's plenty of eggs there.
You can as long as you stay in here, you can have a crack at it.
Yeah, don't want to go out to see you. Sit there.
So wait the toilet.
No, but
I was
Anne
watching a series of unfortunate events and sat in the living room.
A series of unfortunate events.
Yeah.
would be a year when I went to the gun range. And I went down to Manson in 76, which was one of the warmest years. And I went down from August to 6 weeks to do it.
My month, you went down first.
Aye. So we're down the middle of August
What?
to the middle of September.
I thought there was a box or something.
It was
No,
the warm.
no.
We're actually restricted on the water.
Massive.
Now, you know, using water.
Oh.
I went through drought.
Yeah, everyone was tender, you know.
Reckon.
And
It tastes like orange.
obviously Kent,
Many
Yeah.
eggs inside, it's orange.
we had lots of fires. Up on the training ground because you had these huge big, they were like that, big buns. They were talking about from here to those trees ahead. Yeah, Orla, sit it there. I'll show you something. Sit it there, right?
It's quite thick.
Yeah. It's like you dropping your egg. How'd you get on with your egg drop, by the way?
Oh, we haven't done it yet.
Well, some of them's done it.
Yeah, no, go on, explain your drop
What
challenge.
happened is that someone told me Mrs. Murphy would fry the eggs, but she wasn't. And because I didn't have an egg, I wasn't able to take part.
Ah.
Which
It's
really
really
annoyed
annoyed
you,
you, Gag.
it seems a bit silly because, you know, other people will have had eggs, but anyone that's successful, you've seen all this. Still haven't eaten the popcorn yet. I wonder if it'll be a bit stale by now. Yeah, but we have to try it.
So anyway, when we closed down, they moved all our facilities to Shoebury-Ness,
This egg is massive.
the home of Isaac,
I'm for home.
South End. That's Shoebury-Ness. And then, after they closed us down, they came and they asked the people who they paid off, made redundant, if they wanted to transfer, if they didn't have the expertise down there that these people were providing. I'll give you an example. There was a whole...
Andy Murray's granddad.
eh?
Andy Murray's
Oh, aye,
granddad.
Gordon. Aye, Gordon was a prime. He was a prime target. They fired the gun, right? The butts were there. You know, you had the base of the gun there. And what happened was that the gun came in on a train. It came in a lorry into a building, and there were preparations done. Now, it was a tank gun, right? So it came onto the train brought it into the battery. It was lifted out in a crane, put on the butt, lashed in. Shell came from the magazine, which we all prepared, and fired. Now, when it was fired, in the process of firing it, there was a small copper ball in the breech, at the back of the breech. So the shell gets fired. As the shell goes down the range, the shell's going down there. Shells are rifled, you know, the barrel's rifled, so the shell's turning and it goes down the range. So there is cameras lying like that. As the shell passes over the camera's taking photographs. The shell goes into the butt, bang, that's it, it's in the sand, out the road. All that information that was on, you know, in the cameras is getting transferred to the diagnostic room. We've got all these blanks of, you've seen this, you know, blanks of cameras and that. These guys were sitting there taking calculations, what was going on. With a lady called Margaret Henderson, Dr. Margaret Henderson, who's a PhD in ballistics. She wrote the book on ballistics. This lady was phenomenal. This small brass thing was delivered by a series, this thing you put it in the, you see in the shops, you know, the vacuum thing that takes it somewhere else. You know, you see them putting the money in and it goes.
Oh yeah.
Right?
It's like a vacuum, yeah.
Yeah.
Like the Hyperloop idea, yeah.
So, this small brass thing get put in this Hyperloop thing, and it went to the gauge, what we call the gauge shop.
Wait.
And the guy in the gauge shop was Gordon Murray, who's Andy Murray's granddad. Right? And Gordon would
Dad. Okay.
Gordon would take the small brass thing, he would put it in a mount, put it under a microscope, and it would weigh it, while he's got it would weigh it, he would measure it, record the measurements, that would be transferred to these guys with all the screens, and that would be involved with everything that was going on. In Sterf, where we were held the master round for every round fired in the British Army. Every major round, I'm talking about big rounds, I'm talking about the length of that table.
It's almost like the cast for the
No,
master round.
you got to remember that the majority of the round is made of cordite. The explosive side's that side. It didn't concern us. We were propellant what was involved with making the thing go. Right? So the round, or the master round, had already been made, and that was stored in a magazine. Every round made to fire a shell after that was made to that standard. If something went wrong, they would withdraw the master standard. They would test the master standard, and they would produce another master standard. And then they would say, right, that is built to be done with stamp. Well, it was like what Anne does, you know, you do know, you know, making sure that everything was above board. It was a fantastic procedure, you know, because everything was brought down. We had freezers, we brought it down to Arctic conditions. I had to get into a situation where I was in the freezer. I was in the freezer, and one of the guys was outside to make sure that nothing went wrong, that he could get in there and get me out. I had to get in and take the calculations, you know, to record that. What's
He didn't drink milk at bedtime anymore.
Yeah. Come here. May I see something? What's that you got? Show me. Who he? What happens when you remove all gravity from Minecraft?
No, well, we realised that
Would you like a bit?